The U.S. Senate has unanimously approved a bill allowing the families of 9/11 victims to file lawsuits against Saudi Arabia over the country's alleged role in the terrorist attacks. RT's Alexei Yarashevsky has more.
The bill, which sailed through the U.S. Senate unanimously today, is called the Justice Against Sponsors of Terrorism Act, or JASTA. If it ever becomes law, it would essentially allow the ordinary U.S. citizens to file lawsuits against foreign governments if they believe those governments were involved in terrorist attacks on the U.S. soil. And we are primarily talking here about the families of the 9/11 victims who have been trying for years to file a lawsuit against the Saudi Arabian government, which they believe was instrumental in that attack. This bill still has a very long way to go. Indeed, it passed the Senate. Now it's going into the House, which has its own rather more cautious version of it. And we must not forget about a very staunch opposition from the White House, which has again been reiterated today by its spokesperson.
It's difficult to imagine the president signing this legislation. The president of the United States continues to harbor serious concerns that this legislation would make the United States vulnerable in other court systems around the world. There's also a concern that hasn't gotten as much attention about the potential vulnerability that is created for some of our allies and partners in U.S. courts.
The vulnerability that the White House spokesperson was talking about is basically, if this bill becomes law, it will make lawsuits against the United States from other countries possible. The United States have a lot of special operations abroad, and countries would probably be looking forward to suing the United States for a number of those failed operations. Another reason that's been cited by critics all the time is that the United States is very cautious about its relations with Saudi Arabia. It's not only about the relations between Washington and Riyadh, but there's also been a stern warning coming from the foreign minister of the kingdom just last month in Washington, D.C. He said that the country would sell almost $750 billion worth of securities and assets belonging to the United States if this bill ever becomes law. Whether it will become law, we'll certainly find out next week when it goes into the House.
We spoke to William Rodriguez, who was in the Twin Towers when they were hit. He says he is personally affected by Obama's unwillingness to approve the bill.
The reason that it hits me personally is because I lost 200 friends on 9/11, so I will know personally how the families, victims, and survivors feel directly about the government's position about this. And the problem here we have from the very beginning was that 15 of the 19 hijackers were from Saudi Arabia. So we had an issue that this information was not followed through from the very beginning to basically get to the people that were behind sponsoring or giving funds to organizations that actually made possible this attack on 9/11. And remember, it's not because it's of Americans. 9/11 affected 92 different countries of people that died on that event.
Previously, the Saudi government has been accused of supporting the 9/11 hijackers, most of whom were Saudi citizens.
There was an awful lot of participation by Saudi individuals in supporting the hijackers, and some of those people worked in the Saudi government.
You believe that support came from Saudi Arabia?
Substantially.
And when we say the Saudis, you mean the government, rich people in the country, charities?
All of the above.